Good day to you, Guyana, and welcome to another edition of Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you so very much for joining us. Welcome to what might very well be our last Facing the Nation for the year. I know I promised you one on the 15th, which would be next Friday, but just to remind you that there are lots of things going on, so I've had some cancellations. For example, there is still those budget debates going on, of course, after the reading of the 2018 national budget. So ministers and officials in various ministries, they're a bit tied up with focusing on what's happening in the budgets, because after the debates they're the estimates. So today this program might very well be the last one for the year, and what better way to close off Facing the Nation for 2017 by bringing someone who's been, I would call him a major guest on our program for the entire year. And again, I always have to remind this and stress this point. It is refreshing because last year and this year we keep seeing positive news coming out of the University of Guyana, and it is always a pleasure to have him on this program, briefing you, giving you updates on that road to betterment for Guyana's highest learning institution. It is my pleasure to welcome back in this wonderful Christmas season, welcome back to our program, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, of the University of Guyana. I don't know why I want to demote you today, Professor Griffith. Why?
It may be a sign for me to go.
No, not at all, not at all. Welcome back. Viewers,
thank you, delighted to be here.
Yes, viewers, that slip of the tongue, my apologies, but we're actually expecting the Deputy Vice Chancellor also, who is Professor Paloma Mohammed. Hopefully she gets here, but again, this is really a hectic time for us. Parliament, the National Assembly is in session, so the traffic is very, very tight in this part. So we were expecting, that she comes before our discussion wraps up. Now, to welcome for the first time to this program, he is, everyone knows him. Once you're Guyanese, and especially if you live here, you know who Dave Martins is. It is my pleasure to be having my first television conversation with him. He's not only an artiste, but he is the artiste in resident, and that is one of the things our conversation will focus on today. Professor Griffith and also Dave Martins will explain to you what that is all about for the University of Guyana. Dave Martins, welcome to Facing the Nation.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Good to have you. Before we even do a recap of all the things that the University of Guyana would have achieved and somewhat of looking forward to 2018, let's talk about artist in resident. What does that mean? Dave Martins is the artist in resident.
Any university in any nation has got to offer the citizenry the arts. And my return to Guyana last year allowed me to see ways in which we had declined as a nation, in elegance, in cultural matters, in the arts. When I was a student at UG, Martin Carter was the artist in residence. And you didn't have to be someone who was studying literature or poetry to benefit from his words, his wisdom, his conversations. And so one of the things I've committed to do as Vice Chancellor is to help to support and re-energize the arts. The Artist in Residence program I've restarted. Last April, I brought Keith Waite, and then he came back in July, and I said, let's do, for the rest of the academic year, someone who is an icon. And the reality is sometimes you have people who are, let's say, a prophet in his own country is not recognized. And I thought, let me see if I can get Dave to come and do some of the energizing, revitalizing. So what the program is all about is workshops on campus, workshops in the out there's and in the community. Because, we need to not only value the arts, but we need to let the community know that the university values the arts and wants to enable the community to benefit from it. If you go to my home, and you need to come one of these days, I'm using my home as a gallery. Student art, I was shocked, Dave, I don't know if I told you this. I said, let me see what the art students, we have hundreds of paintings.
This is University of Guyana.
Just lying there on the stage. I said, I selected about 70 pieces. I paid about $800,000 to frame them, using some of the students, pay them. And I've had a display. We have about 43 pieces displayed at my house. One of the things that Keith did when he was here, I said, let's have a session called Poetry, Music, and Painting. And we did some of that at the house. While Keith was playing, students were painting.
Oh.
Then we had a nice reception. We've got to find ways to enable arts to be appreciated, that artists need to be appreciated. And so I'm delighted that Dave is our artist in residence through next semester, and we can talk about some of the things that he's.
Exactly. I'm going to ask you, and I'm just going to put it out there so that you can think a bit about it for a while, because again, we're a pretty small country, not necessarily in size, not physically, but in terms of our population, we're small people. So my next question would be whether or not we have enough, and this, viewers, this is not to put any of our own people, whether you're an artist or not, in a negative light, but my next question would be, Professor Griffith, if we have enough artists to make something like this artist in residence at the University of Guyana, if we have enough to make it ongoing. But even before you answer that, Dave Martins, how does it feel to be what contribution will you bring, do you plan on bringing, and what do you think this will continue to do for the University of Guyana in you being the artist in residence?
Distinguished visiting artist in residence.
Distinguished.
Don't forget the
My
distinguished
apologies.
part.
Distinguished visiting artist in residence. Let's talk. Dave Martins.
Well, it's an exciting venture for any artist to be selected to be sort of a spokesperson for what you're doing and try to foster it. I'm very impressed by what I refer to him as a ball of fire, Dr. Griffith.
Yes, I agree.
Because I'm very impressed by what he's doing, the range of things that he's doing, and of course in my case it's just music, but the fact that as we were chatting before you arrived, the artist can be anything. He can be as we had before, a poet. It could be a painter. It could be a dancer. It could be a singer. It could be a designer. It could be a musician. So there's a wide range of possibilities there for future ones. And as far as the music side goes, I think the emerging performer, whatever field that artist is in, is helped greatly by seeing people who have been doing what he's doing professionally, or she is doing professionally, by seeing them, hearing them, listening to them, watch them work. They learn from that, they gain from that, they get encouragement from it, they get ideas from it, as I did from watching others when I was growing up.
Yes.
So I think it's a very useful approach, and I think it'll make a big difference.
In a world, and of course this is for Dave, in a world where music seems to be so diverse and sometimes very strange, the things that we call music, what would you as an artist want to leave for this period of your residency? What would you want to leave with the students and the communities that you would be working with throughout this period?
Well, I think a number of things. I think based on my own experience in Toronto when I moved from here, I think the first thing I would leave with them is, if you want to be successful as an artist, you have to find some way to stand out, to be original. Okay. If you come along and copy Buju Banton, all you're doing is promoting Buju Banton, and you will sound like Buju Banton. And people, every time people will refer to you, they refer to you as that fellow that sing like Buju. It's not you, right? So that's the first thing I would leave with them. You have to be original, right? That is one. And the other piece, which comes as a surprise to many people, is that, again, I learned this the hard way. Nobody told me. You have to be a business person. You have to become an organized, methodical, punctual, repetitive business person, knowing the techniques of what you're doing, yes, but also as purely as a business venture. Whatever business you're in, if you're going to succeed at that business, you have to know it. And a lot of the time, what we have in the Caribbean, I saw it, a perfect example of it is a band in Barbados called Troubadours, which for me was the best band with brass ever in the Caribbean. But it didn't hang together. And it didn't hang together because there was no businessman. I know the guys well. We play a lot of shows with them. But there was no business person inside the troubadour saying, listen, this is what we're doing, and this is what we have to follow, and this is the path to go. There's certain basic business, not music, basic business practices that you, in fact, let me digress here a little bit. Tradewinds started in '66, and we've had probably, the band has probably had about maybe 10 guys in that period of time. Most of them have been there for a lot of years, but some came about. But when I was selecting guys to play in Tradewinds, the last thing I looked at was music ability. I didn't even, that wasn't on the table. Before I get to music ability, I went to these other areas. Is this a reliable guy? Is he organized?
Yes.
Is he on drugs? Or is he into booze? All those things. What kind of person is he?
Yep.
I got to know the guy,
Yeah.
so that it's not a surprise that the drummer in Tradewinds has been there for 40 years, and the other guy 34 and 32. Because I knew from the beginning what I was buying into. If you don't do that as an artist, you are defeating your own artistry. Because the whole thing, if people around you are going to contribute to it, they have to be on the same page with that approach, or it's going to collapse.
Yeah.
So those are the two things I would leave. One is be organized,
Yes.
be original, sorry, and the other piece is get business like from the start.
Perfect advice, even though I'm not.
I want to
music.
pick up
Go
on an
ahead.
aspect of what Dave said on the business side, which is one of the things I'm hoping at the university we can help to do. And it's not just unique to Guyana. There tends to be an undervaluing of the work of the artist.
Yes.
People want you to come and play for free.
Yeah.
People want you to come and give them this painting that you may have spent months on for nothing. We've got to find a way to have people value the output and the input of the artist, whether it is painting or sculpture, or drama or visual arts. And I'm hoping that the messaging that we will do is also messaging to the community. I made a point 2 nights ago when we had a Professor Paloma Mohammed's lecture. Somebody asked me, what are we doing at the university for oil and gas? And I explained what we're doing, and I'm saying, I am going to be asking the nation to appropriately invest. We tend to seem to wanting everything for very cheap, or want somebody else to pay for it.
Yeah.
Let's find a country, let's find a donor. So that is an important part of my objective, helping people to value the arts. People go spend big money on whiskey, but you don't want to spend money in a book or pay the artist.
I am happy that you raised that point in terms of valuing the arts, because even before Dave and I were talking about one of the things keeping the artists, in a sense, down, for want of a better term. One of the things keeping them down is the fact that we basically don't have copyright laws. Do you believe that with the onset of copyright laws, if that comes into play, that it would, in a sense, push these artists, various artists, whether it's music, poetry, whatever, it would, motivate them to have to value their work even more? Do you believe that?
Absolutely, and not simply copyright laws, but laws about intellectual property, period.
Okay.
I invited for a conversation early this week Austin from Austin Bookstore to talk about precisely that. As I'm pushing the agenda and research, I said, we've got to find a way to build a connectivity to places like your operation. And we talked a good deal about how that has been undermined by the absence of a legal framework that protects. So absolutely true. Intellectual property writ large is something that we've got to put on the agenda. And it's not only in a cultural agenda, it's got to be in an academic agenda. Who write books. Look, we just established University of Guyana Press, I think last year, March.
Yeah.
We were having our first set of books come out. Somebody already sent me something, somebody pretending to publish from the University of Guyana Press.
So it's like you would steal everything. It's
But I want to come back to your question about do we have enough
yes,
people in Guyana?
enough. Mm-hmm.
My concept of the artists and residents and the concept of the University of Guyana we're rebuilding is not to look only within.
Okay.
Yes, we have a lot of artists across the performing and visual and literary arts, some of whom we need to allow to be discovered. This must be a place where you can bring some of the new ones in. But what is true of every field is true of the arts. We got a wonderful set of Guyanese out there in different parts of the world. I reached out to a good friend of mine, Vibert Cambridge, earlier this year, and said, Vibert, if you had to suggest to me 4 or 5 people in the arts, defined broadly, Vibert gave me, here is somebody you should consider from Hawaii, Guyanese. Here is somebody you should consider from New York. Here is somebody in the Cayman Islands, scholars. But I'm also pursuing with the Indian High Commission. Indian High Commissioner and I had lunch a couple of months ago, and I said, High Commissioner, I need your help in the Artist in Residence program. He's willing to support. And part of the support from him will be not only to look at Guyanese or Indo-Guyanese in Guyana, but how can we bring Guyanese artists of Indian descent in the diaspora? How might we bring a person from India who is an Indian national who does work in this area?
Get it in fabric, right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's not just looking within,
Yeah.
but it's not ignoring within, but looking beyond.
Beyond. In terms of talking about beyond, I want to come back to you a bit, Dave. As a senior artist, a senior musician, have you ever been approached, and this is apart from what you're doing with Professor Griffith and the University of Guyana, have you ever been approached, but whether it be a governmental organization or any non-governmental organization, to say, okay, Dave, you have so much experience, this amount of experience in it, let's do something to not only musicians, but bring artists in general together and see how we can propel them. And again, this would come back to what Professor Griffith just spoke about in getting them to value their own work.
Yeah. No. Indeed, since I've been living here, the reverse happened to me. I went to somebody in the government with an idea, and I got, an indifference.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is touching on what Dr. Griffith was saying. Part of it is that they're not sure within themselves how valuable this is, one. And two, the other part of it is that they feel that if you're making such an approach, it should come free. In other words, if you're going to offer to do this for me, well, don't expect to get the money for this.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, because you came to me. I understand.
Right. But you see, in a way, that establishes, what he's saying is right, that establishes that they don't think it's valuable. If they don't think it's valuable, they wouldn't tell you, like somebody called me, I won't say who, a few months ago.
Understood.
A function for one of the government leaders in the country, something they were having, and they wanted someone to tell me, he said, you can't come with your guitar and sing tutu.
No.
So I said, no, I don't do that.
No, Professor Griffith. Now that puts a damper on my spirits in case I was planning to ask Dave Martins to sing for us of Residency. But that's fine. Coming back to the other matters. Now, I understand you're saying, Professor Griffith, that we must move away from where we think that we have to stretch our hands from here, there, and everywhere. When we have our own resources here, we could work with. But do you believe, again, programs like this, I'm still getting accustomed to it, the
Distinguished Visiting Artist in Residence.
Sorry, Distinguished Visiting Artist in Residence. Do you think that programs like those would prepare some of these same artists who may be having trouble in valuing their own work in terms of getting it outside of Guyana to brand them on an international scale?
Absolutely. And coming back to Dave's reference to the business side, we'll be offering in the School of Entrepreneurship and Business Innovation courses, short courses, relevant to people who are in the arts or in business.
Vital.
To get themselves structured, organized, know how to value. You have a painting. I went to an exhibition, and I'm looking at what's being asked for some of these pieces. I'm saying, what is the calculus of the value? Some of which I saw should have been valued higher.
Okay.
Some of which I'm saying, I'm wondering, it's just like you pick a number. We've got to enable young artists, not so young artists, to be able to have a rational basis for the conversation. But I want to come back to an element of what Dave is all about. When I was here the last time, I promised that I want to bring you back, but I also said that one of the things I'm excited about that Dave is doing is he's composing a UG song. And he's going to be premiering that song, I think, on the 20th.
So I will be pushing it if I ask to hear it today.
You can ask him, he's going to determine he wants to do it. But I want to invite you, if you're here on the 20th at the university. It's going to be at 7 o'clock. We have our final year festivities. That's an opportunity.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that invite. Viewers, what we'll do, I know this is unusual, breaking in the middle of a conversation, but we'll take a quick break to facilitate the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana. She's here, as I did explain to you, that the traffic is a mess in town. So we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have her on set with us. Stay tuned. Thank you very much for staying with us. Of course, if you're now joining us, this is Facing the Nation. And as I did say, this may very well be our final program for this year. It's my pleasure to be talking with a team from the University of Guyana. The Vice Chancellor, Professor Ivelaw Griffith. He is no stranger to Facing the Nation. Of course, I introduced you already, or I should say I introduced Dave Martins, and it's my pleasure to welcome to Facing the Nation for the first time too, trusting that it won't be her last time, especially if I decide to tap into her a little more often. Professor Paloma Mohammed. She's the Deputy Vice Chancellor at the University of Guyana. Welcome to Facing the Nation.
Thank you very much, Malika. Lovely to be here.
And it's great to have you. And you're looking as bright as the Vice Chancellor in terms of the Christmas colors and the Christmas glow.
Thank you very much.
You're so very welcome. Of course, as you join the conversation, I'm saying that the distinguished visiting artist in residence is still something new to the public for the University of Guyana, even though Professor already explained that the first one in a long time was last year. But I'd like some of your thoughts on it in terms of the transition from last year to now in this program, what you would have achieved and what are you expecting to achieve and so forth.
Right, so it was actually not last year. We started it, Professor, of course, is just a year old in the job. You wouldn't believe it, but he is. So he started when he came, and we actually have had Keith Waith, who is a world-renowned flautist, but based in London, in the UK. He came down here and did a series of wonderful events. So he had a workshop, he had a series of public lectures, he had performances. And one of the wonderful things that came out of his workshop is that he would play the flute and talk about his pieces. And students from the university's visual arts department, without looking at him at all, so they would be in a close by where they could hear him but not see him, they would paint basically what they heard from the music. So they would create these paintings, and in about an hour and a half, you would have these marvelous, wonderful paintings that they would have created from scratch. And we basically did a couple of things with those paintings. We have now the first set of what we call the university's note art stationery that have come out with 6 designs, 12 in a box, of this original art coming out of that artist in residence program. His music turned to visual art, They have also done cups
Mhm.
with the art, original cups. There are fridge magnets coming out, and we have key rings and T-shirts. So a whole line of original merchandise from the university has been created out of this moment. And I think when I came in and I was listening to you just now, you were talking about the value added
Yes.
and how artists can really project their work and make money out of the work. Because while the work is beautiful, they also need to make a living, and they also
Absolutely.
need to find ways of doing that. And so this is just like an amazing kind of outcome from this, and the designs are wonderful. So they're on sale. Let me put in a plug.
Yes,
That's
yes,
my job.
please, because that
Yeah.
would be my next question. Where can we find these?
Yeah.
Because I'm curious now, you know.
Very, very beautiful stuff. It's at a university. We're not in stores yet because we did
Okay.
a very small batch of 600 boxes. And we are selling them by box. There are 12 cards in a box, full color cards with 12 envelopes for 4,000 Guyana dollars.
Okay.
Or you can buy one card and an envelope if you don't want the whole box for $400. So of course there's a value. You get 2 cards technically free if you buy the box. And we can work out with people who want like a wholesale quantity, like about 50 boxes or so. So they're very lovely. Everybody who has seen them and gotten them think they're great Christmas presents, for instance,
Yes.
because they don't say anything. They're blank. So the cover has the design, and then inside you can pretty much use it for anything you want. And of course the T-shirts and cups and so on. So you get them from my office, or there's a business development office on campus, Miss Caroline English, who also is pretty much the person in place to deal with kinds of sales and so on at this moment.
Okay. Professor Mohammed, even before we talk about, because this is lovely, what has come out of the last one, even before we talk about possibly what you're expecting from let me call it the Dave Martins.
The Dave Martin,
yes,
indeed,
the Dave
indeed.
Martins. Even before we talk about that, do you find, because again, and I every time Professor Griffith comes, I like to remind the public that I believe that this is a breath of fresh air for the University of Guyana, his entire team, because in the last 2 years, we keep seeing information about positive information about University of Guyana being placed out there. Do you feel that this is, in a sense, a new life for UG? Not only the things that professors doing, but for example, this residence. Do you find that this will somehow shape our students differently?
Yes, absolutely. I think that that's the reason why his tenure is being called the Renaissance period, right? So rebirth, and more than rebirth, but rebirth in a positive kind of thinking, modern kind of way, forward thinking kind of way. Yes, absolutely. We've seen already what engagement with art can do. I mean, you get me talking about art and I wouldn't stop, right? And artists and culture, because fundamentally a lot of what people do not think about the value of art.
Yes, and that is true.
It's like everywhere. We can't do without it, right? One time I was talking with a head of state, not in this country, let me say, about a budget for supporting something in a different country that I had been involved with in this country. They asked me to come in to talk about it, and he was saying he was spending $1 billion on a baseball facility, right? But he wouldn't spend $3 million on a Carry Festa, for instance. And so I said, well, guess what? Why don't we start stripping off your clothes first thing? Because that is art, right? This is the design. You wear clothes. Can you think of any of the designs, the furniture in your office? Your office is full of art, on the walls, right? You listen to music. Can you think